It's now time for business. The buyout deal between the National Treasury and Telkom Kenya has come back to haunt former senior government officials. The former head of public service, Joseph Kinyua, and Treasury Cabinet Ukur Yatani have been summoned by Parliament to shed more light on the deal, which was valued at 6 billion shillings. The committee has also raised concern with the shareholder transfer process, saying it is yet to be affected 6 months after the deal was sealed.
The National Treasury entered into a private agreement with the UK-based equity fund Helios to buy the company's 60% stake in Telkom Kenya, reverting the teleco's ownership to the government. The deal was criticized by Parliament for the way it was handled. In October 2022, Treasury wired 6.1 billion shillings to Helios, despite objections from a section of lawmakers. The controversial deal is now coming back to senior government officials.
National Security Council is mentioned as the originator of all these things.
The origin of this matter came from the National Security Council. And I don't know whether the former head of public service sits in that committee, or who needs to invite first to authenticate that that information is correct.
Let us do a systematic inquiry starting from the Genesis. And even the Bible starts from the Genesis 1. Step by step, all the way to Cayman Islands.
It goes into record that in need analysis, we call the outgoing order to send right on some few issues that may come up.
The National Assembly says taxpayers may have lost over 200 billion shillings in the transfer of ownership of Telkom Kenya since 2007, when the company was sold to France Telecom.
We shall have had a copy of that very privatization. It's not 6 billion. You'll be surprised this will go back to over 200, 300 billion. Because this will take us back to the very privatization of telecom. So it's not as easy as somebody might assume.
The National Assembly Committee on Finance and ICT says the latest deal to return the third largest teleco in the country to state ownership contains an indemnifying clause, making it hard to trail the 6 billion shillings contract.
And UK undertakes to indemnify the seller on full indemnity basis against any risks and losses, and in addition any penalties, fines, or any other sanctions that may be imposed by the competition authority, the competitions authority, or any other government authority.
The National Assembly also says the contract contains billions of shillings in unclear commitment clause that is exposing taxpayers.
There is another additional $239 million that the government of the Republic of Kenya seems to also have taken up from Jamhuri Holdings. We are not sure whether that was also for some consideration or was for free.
The legislators also claim the shareholding of the teleco is set to change, despite the National Treasury acquiring a 60% stake in Telkom Kenya from a UK-based private equity fund Helios Investment Partners.
We have laws that govern from government to private, but do not have a law that governs now the reverse, now reverting from private to government.
The top former government officials are expected to appear before the Finance Committee next week to lift the lid on the behind-the-scenes deal that brokered the transaction. Benson Ruba reporting for Prime Edition.